People can catch the.
You got it.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Free Friday Coaching Call. Excited to have you all on today. I know a lot of people will be catching this on recording on our YouTube channel. So for those of you that are listening on replay, grab something to write on and something to write with. I know there's going to be a lot of value in today's call and things you're going to want to capture in notes and probably go back and listen to multiple times. So just to set some context for this call, we do this call the first and third Fridays of every month. I think most people know me on this call. Anyway, Casey Council Jiha. This call originally started with my husband, Rick. And the calls came about because as he traveled the world speaking and teaching and coaching for real estate, he'd always give out his phone number and in his generous nature say, hey, call me for anything, anytime, anything you need. And people did. He had 36,000 contacts in his phone, I discovered when he passed. So in honor of him and his commitment to supporting people that are committed to learning and growing in both their mindset and their skill set in the real estate industry, we've got this call that we're continuing. And it's actually really fun now because it's evolved into interviews of people that we might not have been hearing from previously that we're now able to integrate into a larger conversation. Is one that has no borders and goes across states and even countries sometimes. So super excited for everyone that's on the call today. And we're going to jump right in. And as just a kind of like a disclaimer, we never sell anything on this call or are promoting any specific company. And so we've got people that will be at all different levels of their career in real estate and coming from all different companies as an audience to this conversation. So as we jump in today, I'm super excited to introduce the person that is going to be bringing an incredible amount of value today. He's somebody that I met through Rick as a result of Rick's affiliation with Workman Success Systems, which is the premier coaching company in Northern California for people that are looking to grow teams and brokerages. And they attract the best of the best in coaching talent and people that have only been at the top of their game as real estate salespeople and leaders in the industry. Those are the only ones that get selected to be invited into that coaching arena. And so Mike Koch is one of those people that is part of that community and someone that we got to know and become friends with as a result. And one of the things that I love about Mike, I'm going to have him tell his quick story. However, one of the things that I really love and respect about Mike and both of he and his wife, Ann, is that they lead by example. And they're both the kind of people that if you were to never be able to audibly hear what they say and were just to follow them around and replicate what they do, you will create one heck of a successful business and life. And to me, that is the gold of a human being because that is the exception, not the norm in my experience. And so, Mike, I'm super grateful to have you on the call today. And since people might be just meeting you for the first time here, would love to hear your quick story, what you were doing before real estate, how you got in it, and what's kept you in it all these years?
Yeah, well, thanks for that introduction, Casey. They talk about being the sum of the people that you hang out with, and that's one thing that's made me a better person and helped in my personal growth is being around you and Rick and Selena for the last, gosh, what is it? Probably 8 or 9 years. So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for that. A little bit of background about myself. I'm a military guy, and my career really started off in the United States Marine Corps. And after I got out of the Marines, I stayed in my field of choice from the Marines in the civilian world and was a diesel mechanic. And after a period of time doing that, I found real estate really as an investment first and thought if I could do this for a living, this would be a lot of fun. And so I got into real estate back in 2001. And I've had different hats throughout that time, first starting in land development, developing residential communities primarily around lakes. And then the 2008 crash came, and 2008 and 9 were really difficult for that company. It actually ended up putting that company that I worked for out of business at the time. And then in 2010 is when my wife and I started our own brokerage called Terra Firma Realty right here in Madison, Wisconsin. So we've been doing that since 2010. We run the brokerage as a team. We have about 15 or 16 team members here in the Madison, Wisconsin area. Back in 2016, I knew that I needed more help. I wanted more guidance. And so that was when I reached out to Viral Workman after my wife had made an introduction to Viral for me. And that was really our chance encounter with Workman Success Systems when Burrow came to Milwaukee to speak at a brokers conference. And we hired Burrow and Workman Success to coach us starting in 2016. So I've been coaching with them since 2016, and I've been a coach for them since 2017. So I'm a master level coach for Workman Success Systems. I have coaching clients around the country that are looking to either develop their own business or their brokerage or build a team or just level up their production. And so in addition to being a broker owner and a team leader and a coach, my feet are on the ground, my boots are on the ground, and very much in the mix of what all the agents on the call today are working through as well.
I love that. And, there is, for those of you that just will give you an idea about Mike and Ann in 2020 during the pandemic, Rick and I took a 2-month trip around the US in our rig. And we were going through their state, and they said, "You cannot come through our state without stopping to say hello." So we stopped at their office, and when we came in, I'll always remember we walked into the foyer of the office, masked, of course, and there was on the TV a big welcome, Rick and Casey Jiha on the monitor as we came into the office, and they did not let us leave without a great meal and a care package, which might have included some amazing cheese curds, which made great egg scrambles and root beer and popcorn and things that were just absolutely like we'd never had anywhere else before. And I think that speaks to who Mike and Ann are as good humans and hospitable people. So let's jump into our topic today, Mike. I know you've got a lot of value, and this has come about as a result of your years of experience. And what I love about what the listeners are going to hear today, and participants, hopefully people will engage and participate as well, is that you've been able to distill down something from your perspective and take essentially the workings of your brain and get it out into something very visual and interactive that, when integrated, of course, can be a game changer from people taking the game that they're playing in life and business from, I say good to great, average to extraordinary, wherever someone's starting from. So I'm going to pass the baton to you. Take us down this road.
Yeah. So last year, when interest rates in 2022 had spiked up, almost doubled in a matter of 3 or 4 months, and then it became a really competitive market. Inventory levels across the country were really, really low. We were all dealing with all those things, and there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of distractions out there. And I was trying to think of a way, how can I create something that's more simple for my coaching clients as well as my team members that will allow them to grow through the noise and to handle the distractions that we're dealing with at the time? And so I created this model, and I presented the model first to my coach, who at the time was the director of coaching, Jim Knowlton. And I presented to him and another group of coaches on that call. And Jim said, "Mike, this is the most amazing thing I've seen. This really simplifies like how people can do business." And he thought it was so great that he said, "I'm going to talk to Sarah Goldie, who was running the coaching calls, and said, I want you to present this to all the Workman coaches." So I presented it about 3 weeks later to about 60 or 70 coaches. And there was a lot of people who had a lot of positive things to say and wanted to basically take that down and put it into their business and share it with their coaching clients. And, we all love hearing Rick's voice. And Rick was on that call, and he had some things to say about this tool that I just want to share because I know this is your organization. People will love hearing his voice. And I'm going to share my screen real quick and just share the excerpt of that video that Rick shared his thoughts on. So let me share this screen. I'm going to share my audio. And if you could just give me a thumbs up when I hit play and let me know if you can hear the audio.
Hey, Mike, I'd like to say that I'm blown away, and at the same time, I want to throw some really strong kudos out towards you. I had an opportunity to talk to Mark Seiden earlier in the week, asking him what he was doing to overcome the shift in the market, and he could only tell me about great Mike Coke ideas that he was doing. Then I was talking to Tammy Slay a few days later, talking to her about what she's doing differently in the market. She goes, "Oh, I'm using Mike Coke's ads for Wise Hire, and it's helping quite a bit." So everywhere I turn, someone's talking about Mike Koch. I get on the call today, Mike Koch's talking about another brilliant concept. You are literally what I call a thought leader, and I'm just happy to know you.
Yeah, is it possible?
And so after that point, we went in and put this model into practical matter. We spent about 10 minutes showing them a sample of how they could incorporate this into their business. And then Rick came back on and had this to share.
That we isolate this part and create this video with Mike doing this? This is some, excuse my language, this is good shit. I would love to take this clip and send it to clients and have agents watch it. Like it's brilliant. So,
Well, we can't use it now, Rick, because you've cussed right in the middle of it. I mean, you
Right, it's useless now.
believe me, Sarah has really big scissors. She can cut that right out.
So it's always good to hear Rick's voice. And I've always looked up to Rick as one of my mentors. And for him to say that about something that I put together really hit home for me and was a special moment for me. So without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to this model. As we talked about over the last 4 years, there's been a lot going on in the industry, whether it's COVID or interest rates, low inventory, competition, and now the NAR settlement. And I know that there's a lot of agents that are suffering out there. And at the same time, there's a lot of agents that are thriving. And so I've created this model, and I'm going to go ahead and share my other screen with you so you can see that. Share that screen. Okay. So before we get into this model, it's important for everybody to know that this is from The Greatest Salesman in the World, written by Og Mandino. And he talks about success and what does success look like. And he goes on to say, which two among 1,000 wise men will define success in the same words? Yet failure is always described but one way. Failure is man's inability to reach his goals in life, whatever they may be. And so failure looks the same for everyone, but success looks different for everybody. So as we get into this, I want you to think to yourself of what does success look like to you? It's important that you have that vision. And whatever that vision is, there's 3 critical elements that you need to have in order to achieve success. 1 is going to be a plan. 2 is going to be skills. And 3 is going to be action. And this is where the strategy really comes into play. Now, I call this the success wheel. But when you see each of these segments of the wheel, they're not always even. Right now, they're taking up 1/3 of the wheel each, but they're very fluid and they very much change at any given point in your career. Or if you're looking to build out a new pillar, it's going to change as you're developing that pillar. For instance, as you're a new real estate agent, and Casey, if you can remember back to when you first started in real estate, this is essentially what the model of a new agent looks like. They come in, they really don't know what they're supposed to be doing. They have a very limited plan. They don't have a lot of skills. Maybe they have some previous scale skills. Maybe some of those translate over into real estate, but they have a very small skill set. And because of the small skill set and the limited plan, they have to make up for that by taking massive action. And so when we look at the wheel, they have to take roughly 75% action in order for them to achieve success or the results that a more experienced agent might have. And an example of this is one of my coaching clients who hired an ISA. He hired an ISA who had no previous phone experience, no previous sales experience, had a speech impediment, and he wanted the ISA to call through his 6,000 person database, making calls to set appointments for the agents. Now, the plan was for him to call through the database. They gave him a script, they gave him some dialogue, they gave him a few objection handlers, and his goal was to set appointments. So he had a very, very limited skill set. But in 2 weeks, using that dialer, he called through all 6,000 contacts in his database, and he made 12 appointments for the team agents. And so when I think of agents that are out there in the market, in the community right now, I think of who wouldn't want to have 12 appointments over the next 2 weeks. Yet these agents have a lot more skill than that ISA who also had a speech impediment. And so it just proves that even though you're newer, even though you don't have a massive skill set, if you take massive action, you can still have success. And as you're developing as an agent, you can see here in the chart that your plan won't change yet, but because you're taking massive action, your skills start to develop. And as you develop your skills, you have to take less action to get the same result. And the more action you take, the better your skills get. So you still have the same plan. You have a more elevated skill set. Maybe this is in year 2, and you have to take less action to get the same results that you did in the first 6 months. Or maybe you're taking the same amount of action and you're seeing greater results. And when you're finally 3 to 5 years into the business and you understand what the business looks like, you have more knowledge, you have more experience, you have worked with your team leader or your coach or your broker owner, and you start to develop a bigger plan, and your skill set now makes up roughly 50% of the success wheel. Now you only have to take about a third of the action that you had to take when you're in your first year. And so the important piece of this is we always have to be honing our skills. I mean, 23 years into the business, I'm still developing my skills, but I don't have to take as much action to get a much greater result than somebody else who might be in their first year or maybe in the first 5 years. And by taking action, we can develop our skill set. But this is where most agents lie. You know, after coaching teams around the country, after speaking and interviewing with a lot of agents, this is our average agent. The problem is that they do have some of a plan and they do have some decent skill sets, but they're not taking nearly the action that they need to be taken in order for them to see the results that they want. There's too much going on in their life. There's too much noise. There's too many distractions. People are working from home. They're doing grocery shopping. They're doing laundry. They're taking the dog for a walk. They're not committing to their business. And this is what Viral Workman calls fake work. Like, we're doing the things that make us feel busy, but we're not doing the things that move the needle on our business. And we have this void in our business. And what we need to do as realtors, when we have this fake work that's going on, we have to eliminate this void. We have to increase the amount of action that we're taking, because usually it's not a skill set thing. It's usually an action thing. Most people in their business right now, the biggest thing that's causing their business to suffer is they're not taking enough action. And I'm going to show you how that's transpired over the last 4 years in just a minute. But before I move on, I want to take this time for everybody on the call or everybody watching the recording of this to evaluate yourself. So this success wheel is not only going to show us how we can grow our business, but it allows us to assess where we're at, where are we with our core competencies, and where are the gaps in our business. So think about, what does your business plan look like right now? If your goal is to sell 20 or 50 or 100 units this year, what is your plan in order to hit that? Do you have the skill set in order to achieve that? And how much action are you taking? And it's really important that we be honest with ourselves, because most people are going to see this void in their business. I'll even see this void in my days, but I try to limit that as much as I can. But take a moment just to assess yourself on the wheel. And I'm gonna turn it over to Casey now to see if she has anything that she wants to highlight as we've gotten to this point of just describing the basics of the success wheel.
Well, I love that you called out the void as fake work. Because there's a difference between being busy and productive. And so I think that it's huge for agents to be able to, you know, it's like that whole thing, awareness before change, right? In order for me to change something, I have to have an awareness of it. And so I'm guessing that we're going to jump into a little bit of what that void might be, so that as people go, oh no, that's fake work, they can redirect and have that void piece be one that gets smaller and smaller and moving into the things that are more productive. I love the visual. I love the visual of being able to see. And it's not like and the thing I also love that of how you've created it is it's not a pass or fail. Everything's relative and shifting all the time, which indicates we can be growing and improving and being, you know, becoming more effective and seeing that as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me share my screen again. So we have the average agent, and then just like the wheels on our bike or on our car, there's spokes in it. And the purpose of the spokes in a car or wheel is to transfer the weight of the vehicle, the passengers, through the hub down to the rim and into the ground. And it's really important that we have these. And if there's a spoke on a wheel that's not true, if the wheel is not true, it's not going to go down the road, and it could actually create an accident, create a really bad situation. Well, just like the spokes on that wheel, there are spokes on the success wheel. And what these folks do is they break down each of these 3 critical elements into essential categories where we can work on to build those. For instance, in the planning category, we first have the what. What is it that we want to accomplish? What is our goal? What is the vision for that? It might be something as simple as working your sphere of influence. It might be building your business. It might be losing weight. It might be building for retirement. Whatever it is, we have to identify the goal. The next thing is the how. How are we going to do it? And now the neat thing about the how is that we can either come up with that game plan or we can follow a proven process. For instance, my coaching clients, there's a proven process for almost everything they're going to encounter in their business, whether it's working their sphere of influence, holding an open house, circle prospecting, doing a listing presentation, or hiring. There's a proven process. And so if you have access to a proven process, use that because it'll really shortcut the time in the planning phase. But it's important that we detail out what we need to do along the way so that we have a checklist of items we can complete. Then we have to associate a deadline with it. And that's the by when. When are we going to complete this? If I decided that I wanted to lose 5 pounds, who knows when I'll get started? But if I decided I wanted to lose 5 pounds by the end of the week or by the end of the month, then it's going to force me into action. And so everything that we do, we have to have a deadline associated with it. So it forces us to take action. The next segment of the wheel is the skills. All right. Now we're very much in a skills-based market. Okay, things have been changing over the last 2 years. This isn't 2020 or even 2021 where we could almost be order takers and the market itself would do our job for us. Now we're having to navigate a very competitive market. Now we have changes coming from NAR that we're all going to have to adapt to, and we're going to have to improve our skill set. So we're very much in a skill-based community, and we should all be working every single day to get better at our craft, because I believe now more than ever with these changes coming, the top agents are going to be paid appropriately. You're going to be rewarded for your talent. So let's keep getting better as an industry. In order to develop our skills, we have to do 3 things. First, we have to learn that skill. What is it that we're trying to do? Is it making prospecting calls? Is it playing an instrument? Is it picking up a new sport? We have to learn what we're going to be doing. Once we understand that and we're in that training phase, we move into practice. Whatever it is that we learned, we now have to implement that and we have to start practicing that. That might be role play. It might be shadowing another agent. It might be hosting an open house and having somebody shadow us. It might be going through writing contracts. And so we have to practice what we learned. And then the last piece of that skill segment is the feedback. Once we're doing it, we have to get feedback from somebody who is doing it better than us. It might be our team leader. It might be a coach. It might be a broker owner. It might even be a colleague who's better at that activity than you are, but we have to get that feedback. And then we get back into that cycle of learn, practice, and get more feedback. Once we move out of that skills thing, we go to the action. This is really important, okay? Because while we're in a skill-based marketplace, there's more action that is required out of us now than there was 3 years ago. And so when I talk about taking action, I don't mean just like casually showing up to the office, casually making a couple phone calls a day, going through the motions, going to the water cooler, whatever it might be. I mean dedicated action, massive action. And the first thing that we have to do is we have to develop consistency in it. And when I look at the action component of the wheel, I like to think about fitness. If I was to go work out 1 day a week, I'm probably not going to see any results. But if I'm consistent and I go work out 5 days a week, I'm going to start seeing results probably in a very short period of time, maybe even just 2 weeks. Well, real estate, my friends, is the same way. If we only prospect or lead gen or hold one open house, we're going to get different results than if we do it 5 days a week for 3 hours a day. Whatever we do consistently, we're going to see the results quicker. And if you consistently lead gen, hold open houses, if you're doing the right money-making activities in your business, you're going to see the results again in as little as 2 to 3 weeks. You're going to see your appointments go up. The next thing is the duration. Again, back to fitness. If I were to go to the gym or if I were to go for a walk and I did it for 5 minutes, I'm going to see a different result if I did it for 45 minutes. And so when we're lead genning, prospecting, working in our business, we need to do it for a defined period of time. Is that time going to be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? That should be very relevant to the production that you have in your pending board right now. I like to say, if you don't have any business pending at the moment, Your only job is to get new business. It might require you to lead gen for 5 or 6 hours a day. If you have 5 pending transactions at any one time, you can probably ratchet back to 2 hours a day. If you're a really top producer and you have 8 to 10 units pending at any one time, you could still ratchet your time back to about an hour a day. But you notice I didn't say you could stop prospecting, because that is the life and oxygen of our business. We have to do it every day. The last part of that, Casey, is the intentionality piece of it. If I were to go to the gym and get on that treadmill and walk on a flat surface, I'm going to get a different result than if I raise that up by a couple degrees. If I were to go to the gym and I were to go bench press 100 pounds, that's going to give me a different result than if I were to bench press 200 pounds or 250 pounds. Same thing in real estate. When we're making phone calls, we have to have the intentionality of setting the appointment. When we're out on appointments, we have to have the intentionality of moving the client through the sales cycle. And so we have to have intentionality or purpose in everything that we're doing. So the reason that we need to have this level of consistency, duration, and intentionality, this is something that I got from Vero Workman. All right. His coaching clients, there's hundreds of coaching clients, and they all track what they do on a daily basis. The number of calls, conversations, appointments set, offers written. And he pulled this data from his platform and found out that in 2019, it took about 167 calls to make one sale, to have one closing. In 2020, things got easier, 134 calls to make one closing. And in 2021, the easiest year that we have on his tracking record, it took 127. But guess what? What happened, my friends, in March of 2022? Donna, do you remember what happened in March of 2022? Interest rates shot up. That was the start of interest rates going up, and they went from 3% to 6% in literally 90 days. The market started slowing down. Things became more difficult. Inventory started to shrink in 2022. It became a more competitive marketplace, and things started getting harder. It then took 165 calls to get a closing, and in 2023, it took 222 calls to get a closing. And so what I like about the data is it allows us to make informed decisions instead of gut decisions. And this data right here shows us that things have gotten harder, but most agents haven't changed what they've been doing. And so they're getting a lesser result, and they're thinking, why am I getting a lesser result? I'm doing the same activities. I'm spending an hour a day prospecting, and I'm selling a third of what I did 2 years earlier. Well, it's because it's almost twice as hard. You have to do almost twice as much work to get the same result that we used to get in 2021. And so when we look at the success wheel, this is a well-rounded success wheel. This is one that's completely built out with all 3 of the essential elements and the key components of each of those built into it. When we incorporate this into our business, we can see a lot of great things happening. And what I want to do is I want to show you how we can actually get tactical with it, how we can implement it into a piece of our business. And I took open houses as an example. We're all very familiar with open houses. And when I look at the success wheel and I build it out for that pillar, the first thing we have to do is, what is it that we want to accomplish? And in this scenario, I want to generate 12 sales from open houses in 1 year. So that's my goal. That's my what. The next thing is the how. How am I going to do that? Well, in this scenario, I chose to work with one of the Workman Success Proven processes called open houses and steroids. The how is I'm going to host 3 open houses, 3 out of 4 Sundays. And the win is I'm going to start doing this now. And I'm going to do it all the way through 2024. If I do this, I should see 12 sales coming from open houses. The next piece of this is the learn. I have to learn scripts and dialogue to have high-level conversations to turn visitors into clients. Then I have to practice that. Maybe I role play it with a peer, a team leader, a sales manager, or maybe my coach. I get feedback from them. I learn more techniques. I learn how to do it better. I go back and I practice it again, and then I get feedback again until I'm ready to get out into the field and convert at a high level. The consistency is I'm going to do this 3 out of 4 Sundays. The duration is I'm going to do it for 2 hours per open house. And the intentionality is that I'm going to set a follow-up appointment with every opportunity. Maybe it will be to do a buyer presentation. Maybe it'll be to take them and show them other houses, but I'm going to get intentional with it. Now, as I was preparing the slide deck, I thought, you know what? What's the big elephant in the room? The big elephant in the room right now is the NAR settlement. And so how can we apply the success wheel to the NAR settlement? Here's an example of that. The what is, what do I want to do with the NAR settlement? The what is, I want to thrive in the new market amidst all the changes. The how am I going to do that is I'm going to be able to do that by able to articulate my value to protect my fee, to have strategic options to collect my fee, and to enter into buyer's agency. And part of the how may also be that I have to redesign my buyer consultation so that it talks more about my value proposition. When am I going to do that? Well, now I know I got to do it by August 2024. That's when the NAR settlement and all the new changes are going to go into place. The learn piece of it is I'm going to have to learn scripts and dialogue to have high-level conversations with buyers, sellers, and other agents in order to accomplish my goal. I'm going to practice and role play these conversations daily, and I'm going to get feedback from my team leader or my coach. We're going to do it daily. We're going to do it for at least 30 minutes. And we're going to be intentional about it so that we can hit and maintain a satisfactory rate of conversion. And so before I move off the success wheel, I just want to open up to some questions or maybe even some additional thoughts and feedback from you, Casey.
I'd love to hear from anyone that's on the call as well, if you're good with that.
Absolutely.
Jenna, Jean, Terry, Natalie, Stephen, Paulina, MC.
You put that last slide back up, please?
The one about the NAR settlement?
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
May I jump in, please? Mike, this is Jeannie.
Hi, Jean.
How you doing?
Doing great. How are you? Thanks for coming today.
Good. Hope you, and thanks for having me on this call with you all. So the NAR settlement's been a really, really big topic of conversation around the brokerage. And, you know, you said everything basically that we've been focusing on is we have to skill up. We have to show our value. And, you know, the other thing too is we're tracking here what co-ops are doing. And I'm in the Las Vegas market. We're tracking co-ops, what sellers are not offering them, days on market, when they actually end up deciding to offer one, sometimes weeks down the road, we see that there's a massive price reduction. So a lot of it is educating our clients here. If they have questions, discussing it all and letting them make the choice. And after we present what's going on in their maybe general neighborhood, specific area, more often than not, it kind of becomes a non-issue, which is a really great thing. So providing the seller, the lister with stats has been a game changer as far as, you know, adding that to our listing presentation and letting them lead themselves to their decision.
Absolutely. I love that. And that goes back to the skills part of that, Gene, is that these changes you've had to prepare yourself. Your other team members and the broker agents has had to prepare themselves for these conversations. If we don't go into that conversation prepared, if we haven't practiced it, if we're not consistent with the messaging, that consumer is going to take that very different. If we're just winging it in that conversation, we have a much greater chance of losing that client because we ourselves are not skilled enough to be able to educate that client the way you did to help them make the decision that's best for them and their family. So kudos to you for already working on that and having those successful conversions. Now, there was somebody else that wanted me to bring this slide back up.
That was MC. MC, did you have something you wanted to contribute or ask?
I'm just trying to take the best notes possible for my little team.
So Mike, what I'm getting from everything that you're saying so far is that there's the wheel is essentially the map, and then it can be laid over multiple things from open houses to NAR settlement in a context of integration. And as with anything in life, nothing's going to happen if we don't use it.
Absolutely. We have to implement it. We have to use it. And what I've found since I designed this last year, Casey, is how many areas of our business this applies to. We can even apply this to the operations within our business. We can apply this outside of business to our fitness, our nutrition. Like there's so many different ways. It's very frequent during a coaching call that I have a client bring a problem or a challenge to the table. We almost always go back to the success. We always say, okay, this is the problem. What is it that we want to accomplish? Once we know what we want to accomplish, we can identify how we're going to work on doing that. And we just go around the wheel. We start in that 5 o'clock position of the wheel of what is it we want to accomplish? How are we going to do it? What's it going to take for us to happen? When are we going to do it by? Do we have the skills necessary for us to make this happen? It's really amazing once we understand this wheel, how many different areas of our life and business that we can insert this in to help us solve any challenges that we're coming up against.
Love it.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen again, and you really did a nice segue into talking about implementation, because you're right. We can know all this information. Knowledge doesn't really do any favors for us unless we're actually going to put it into action. And so I'm going to share this right here. Now, this is another quote from Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World. In truth, the only difference between those who have failed and those who have succeeded lies in the difference of their habits. Good habits are the key to all success. Bad habits are the unlocked door to failure. Thus, the first law I will obey, which precede all others, is I will form good habits and become their slave. And so many of us are used to a routine or a structure or a schedule that doesn't serve us properly. It doesn't do what we need it to do. And so we first have to take control of our schedule. And that is not as easy as it sounds, but I'm going to share a tool with you from Working to Success that I found when implementing this. It helps a lot. And hopefully you can see that because it's a little bit blurry on my screen actually. But what this Perfect Week Scheduler is it allows us to take control of our schedule, and it allows us to be focusing on things that are going to move the needle in our life the most. When we look at our week, we first outline all the things that are most important to us as an individual. It might be your family time. It might be date night. It might be your workouts. It might be nutrition, quiet time for you. We have to first put that into our schedule so that we can protect that. We every Friday we have an all coaches call where we all get on and we mastermind different challenges. We talk about different wins, things that are working in different markets. And literally in this morning's call, when we had all the master coaches together, we talked about there's a lot of burnout going on. There's a lot of people who are feeling really tired and really overwhelmed. And what we learned during that call is there's a lot of people who just are not taking enough time for themselves. And Casey's a life coach. You can probably speak a lot more intelligently on this than I can. But when we're having this burnout and we're spending all this time in our business, we have to make sure that we take time for ourselves too. It might be that date night with your spouse. It might be going on vacation. It might only be a 2 or 3 day getaway, but we have to make sure that we stay recharged, because quite frankly, you guys, if you empty your proverbial pitcher, you can't pour into anybody else if your pitcher is empty. And so make sure you put your big rocks in early. The next thing that we like to do is we really like to nail the morning. The morning routine for anybody who's in production or real estate is you have to be focused on production. I call that lead gen or prospecting time. They're doing the money-making activity. So here you can see that we blocked off for the first couple hours of every single morning prospecting, whether it's buyers, sellers, whatever it is that you're going to be doing. After that, we've got the team huddle built in there. After that, we have some dedicated time to work your sphere of influence. Well, the way I look at this schedule is if you can set structure and rigidity in the morning where you're working on your business, then you can respond in the afternoon to all the activity that you're generating, meaning be proactive in the morning and reactive in the afternoon. All that prospecting should be generating appointments for you, and you should protect your morning routine so that when you set an appointment, you're setting that appointment for the afternoon, the evening, or the weekend, so that you don't get on the real estate roller coaster where you're up and down. You've got 3 closings, life is good, but now all of a sudden your pending board is 0. That's the roller coaster. And so we have to make sure that we dial that schedule in as much as possible. And while it may seem daunting to really structure your whole day, start with the morning. You know, maybe start with 8 a.m. to noon. Or if that's too big of a change for you, start with 8 a.m. to 10. Really dial in the first couple hours. And then as you get comfortable in that new routine, replace the bad habits with the good habits. We can get into structuring the rest of the day. So this really helps you visualize what you should be working on at any one given time. Another tool that we love to use is a daily success habit tracker. All right. The perfect week scheduler shows us what we should be doing. The daily success habit tracker actually monitors what we actually did. On the left-hand side of this, we track, oops, I'm sorry. On the left-hand side of that, we track what we did in the morning so that we have some accountability to ourselves. And then we track our money-making activities. In the morning, maybe we made 10 phone calls. So we put a line through these first 10 calls. And then if you make contact with them, you can turn that into an X. We track all the money-making activities like calls, conversations, appointments set, offers written, so we know what we did. If you guys are not currently tracking what you're doing, it's impossible for you to identify where the gaps are in your business. Once a month, when I meet with all my agents, we go over all their production numbers from the previous 30 days. And when we look at those numbers, if there's a challenge in their business, it allows us to pinpoint where is that challenge. Maybe they're making enough calls, maybe they're going on enough appointments, but maybe they're not writing enough offers. And when you track what you're doing, it allows you to say, hey, I'm not writing enough offers. Maybe I'm not having the right conversations. Maybe I need to work on my conversion skills while on the appointment so I can make more offers. Or maybe you're just not making enough phone calls. And when you track it, it's going to show you where you need to improve. So it really allows a team leader, a broker owner, somebody who's invested into you to help you make educated decisions on where you need to level up your business. Okay.
Before we move on, can I jump in?
Absolutely.
I want to talk about the elephant in the room. Most people get into entrepreneurship because they want freedom, and there is no freedom without discipline. And so when you just talked about what you just talked about, it is the discipline that yields the freedom. That was one thing. And then the second thing is that I have never met anyone that likes to track all of that stuff. And the necessity of it from a coaching perspective is all the things that can happen energetically in our minds. Well, I made so many calls. I'm so busy. I'm this, I'm that. And then when there's no room in a box for a story, there's only room in the box for the number. And it's impossible to see what's working or what there is to improve without having that data to be able to have a conversation around it, because otherwise you're just talking about your feelings, which are going to be based on a perception that's constantly shifting and changing. And so to get this whole topic that we're on about going from average to extraordinary, like average people aren't going to do that. And they're never going to get extraordinary results because they're not willing to do the things that are going to yield the extraordinary results. And the biggest thing is I know at Workman, you guys say accountability is love. However, it's an active and it's a participatory thing. So seeing it, laid out like that and understanding the value of why we do it. And then if you're leading people and attempting to coach or help them get from point A to point B in their business, it's impossible to do that without the data.
Yeah, I look at that DSH tracker, Casey, kind of similar to the computer at the automotive dealership. If it used to be before we had these smart cars that you had an issue that it wasn't running right, it wasn't tuned right, and you take it in and you try to describe what was wrong with your vehicle, and the mechanic would take it out for a road test and try to replicate the issue so that they could come back and repair it. And sometimes they couldn't even find the problem, and then you drive away and of course the problem comes back again. But now with these computers, you take your car into the dealership and you plug it in and they know right away what the problem is because the computer has diagnosed it and they're just getting the data from the computer in your car. When you start tracking what you're doing, my friends, you're going to be able to look at that data the same way the mechanic at the dealership looks at it, and you're going to be able to find where your business is not running properly, and you can make those adjustments right away instead of waiting till the end of the quarter or halfway through the year where it's too late for you to get back on track. So when we talk about going from average to exceptional and we talk about thriving in the marketplace, I want to really simplify it. We've talked about the success wheel. And so if you have a solid plan, if you continue to develop your skills, if you take massive action, these are all things that you can control. Utilize the perfect week scheduler to keep you focused on task, and you track what you're actually doing so you can find the gaps in your business, or maybe you can celebrate what you're doing really well you're going to have success. And I realize that doing just these 6 things on here may seem like a lot, but you really do have control of them. You don't have control over what's happening with NAR. We don't have control over the interest rates, but we do have control over the mindset and the attitude that we bring into our work every day. And we have control over the activities that we're going to do throughout the day. And so as we wrap this up, here's my friend, Rick Jiha. As we wrap this up, he has this video of when he was in the Oakland A's stadium. And actually, Casey, can you tell us a little bit more about why he's there?
Yes. So this is my sister filmed him for this. So this was a game that happened in 2023, and he and his sons were signed up for fantasy camp. So at this specific game, anybody that was signed up for fantasy camp got to stay after the park was entirely cleared out and then be down on the field doing batting and catching and practice playing with coaches, actual coaches from the A's, and former players in preparation for fantasy camp. So this was filmed right before they went down on the field to play that day.
And so I want you to hear Rick's words of why he's there. And I want you to pay really close attention at about the 1 minute mark when there's a really great message that he delivers that I really want you guys to pick up on. And so actually I'm going to stop sharing because I think I probably didn't share that screen with my sound. So screen 2 with Sean, and here we go.
Okay, so coming up on my 66th birthday, and this is a sight that very rarely do you get to see. The Oakland Coliseum. I came to my first game 54 years ago this summer. 54 years ago this summer, I came to my first Oakland A's game. If you notice, the Coliseum's empty, and the field is empty. So it's pretty darn cool. And I'm excited because for the 3rd time in my life, my sons and I are going on the field to field and take batting practice with a pitching machine and with a bunch of other people that are going to something called Fantasy Camp in January. And I'm super excited about it because I've never played baseball. I never played baseball as a kid. I played softball as an adult, but never played baseball. So I'm learning all these new skills so I can play with my sons who are both in their 30s. So I'm super excited. It's like learning something new at a very late stage in life, and I'm really excited about batting because I've been taking lessons on how to be a good batter. So I just want to share it with my friends. Like, this is so amazing that I get these opportunities, not for any other reason than because I make the opportunities happen. Whatever opportunity you're looking for in your life, you can make it happen by being driven enough to go get it. I hope you'll go get what you want.
So I'm just going to echo Rick's message there. And, you know, if Rick was still here with us today, he would be talking about the opportunity that the market is creating for us right now. And so my hope for all of you that are on this call, that are going to be watching this recording, my hope is that you go out there and you make these opportunities just like Rick did. You go get what you want and you achieve the success that you seek.
Me too. So thank you so much for what you put together and delivered today. I'd like to open it up to anybody that's on the call for any questions, comments, feedback, clarifications, because we do have a few minutes before the top of the hour.
So mine is more of a comment. Mike, this was outstanding. Thank you. I think the way that it was presented, as a new agent, looking at where it needs to be divided up, made perfect sense.
Awesome.
So,
thanks for that, Peter. Peter, let me ask you a question. What will you do today or tomorrow as a result of what you just learned?
So I'm not going to say that it was just what I learned today, but a combination of a couple of things over the last few weeks. And I have already blocked out significant time for lead gen. As a matter of fact, this morning, and actually this aligns well with that, I talked to a couple of the agents on the team who do not do lead gen, and I just negotiated out. I'm going to do more of their calling for them as I started looking through their numbers and what they're not doing. So I'm going to be doing that and getting a percentage of that. So we're negotiating all that out. So combination of things, but this really pushed a couple of things in what I noticed, especially as I'm working on the team itself and some of the other agents that have a whole lot more experience, but are not doing the actions. So that really helped align that. And I'm going to be using this in our next team meeting.
Great.
Who else? It looks like Team Ella wanted to come off mute for a moment.
Hi, you guys. Yes, I'm over here shopping and Leo Robles sent me the link. This is the first time I hop on, and I think it was meant to be because one of the things that we were struggling with our team is really getting down to the perfect calendar and taking care of the things that they need to, like the prospecting early in the morning. So I'm gonna go back to the team and have them go through their calendar and see if it's even on there. And does that reflect what their production is or what their goals are? So I think it was a reminder that we have to go back to the basics in this market and do the things that we have to do to get business. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. That's wonderful that was a takeaway. And a lot of times you can tell how successful somebody's going to be by simply looking at their calendar. And so it's really important that not just that you design this. The way that I implement this into my life, you guys, is I design it first using that perfect week scheduler that I showed you because it's got really great drop-down menus. But once I've designed it, I go into Google Calendar and I block that time off. And because I live my life out of my calendar. And so that's the nice part where it just reminds you of what you should be doing at any given moment. And if you find yourself distracted, you can go right back to your calendar and remind yourself of what should I be doing in this moment.
I love that. I want to highlight something else you said about that, Mike, which was like for somebody that's not living by a calendar and they look at everything scheduled in the day, they may go completely rogue and do none of it just because they feel so constricted by the fact that every single half hour is accounted for in some kind of color block. And so there may all the things may be on the calendar and they may do none of them during the times that they're scheduled to do them for that reason. And so like a starting point is what's the most important. And I love what you highlighted when you were talking, which was like, hey, if this is new to you or you're not living by a calendar, you're not time blocking in the things that would be, if you're a real estate agent, the most important thing is your lead gen time, that you've got that blocked out. And then maybe the rest of the day is flexible, but if that is solid and no matter what, whether that's your, 8 to 11 or 9 to 11, however somebody's going to structure that, and that one thing happens every day, everything else will happen from there because the appointments are coming. And of course you're going to book appointments and of course you're going to attend appointments. And so it's starting with the concrete pieces that are the most important piece, which is like the top of the funnel that leads to everything else that happens after that. And then I don't know what your experience is for yourself or with your clients, but my experience is that like getting structured in one place, it then trickles down to getting more structured in other places. And it doesn't have to be all at once. It's just getting started. So I love that you positioned it in that way.
Absolutely. I agree. And Casey, Xavier's got a great question. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. He said that was very inspiring and motivating. As someone who hasn't been motivated, my question is, how can I keep this motivation going?
Isn't there a supplement for that?
What, like the 5-hour energy drink?
No, that's a death wish.
Okay.
What would you say to that, Mike?
One is I would say that there's so many things that play into that motivation. And one is going to be the people that you hang around with, right? Like if you hang around people that are successful, that are motivated, that inspire you, it's just easy to feel inspired like that and motivated. Two is Jeannie says a good thing right there is your why. Why are you doing it? What brings you motivation and what brings you joy? Three is be careful with what you consume. Okay, a lot of us are on social media. Be very careful of what you subscribe to. About 2 years ago, I got on a fitness journey and I needed to improve my health and my wellness. And so I did 75 hard, and I started reading more about health and fitness and nutrition. I started joining other groups around the same thing. And before I knew it, my feed started filling up with those things that I was really in the moment of: nutrition, fitness, and wellness. And so look at what groups you're subscribed to and join some other groups that are going to inspire and motivate you, and get out of the groups that don't. There's a little button on some of your friends, and you hit those little 3 dots together. You can still be friends with them and unfollow them if what they're posting on social media is not serving your own life well. So be very careful about what you consume, whether it's through social media, TV, any other news channel. Those are 3 things that I would look towards.
I love that. And I'll add a fourth, which is be what goes in the pie hole impacts motivation. Yeah. Sugar will kill it. Alcohol will kill it. Heavy, dense breads and sweets will kill it. Too much of anything will kill it. Those are all motivation killers.
You know, I just thought of another one, Casey. COVID for a lot of people was a motivation killer. When we got stuck working at home and we got taken away from people, especially if we had the opportunity to get into a really great environment, putting yourself into the right environment can impact your inspiration, your motivation, and in the end, your results. So look to get into the right environments.
I love that. All right. Well, we are coming towards the top of the hour. So thank you for for those of you that were unable to come off mute and put notes in the chat. We've got tons of great feedback and appreciation for the value that you delivered today to Mike. So thank you so much, Mike, for being here and being willing to share so freely. We'll look forward to having you back on at some point. Maybe perhaps you'd be willing to do that in like a part 2, a round 2. I'm just going to
Sounds great.
put that out there right now. And for those of you that are catching this on the recording and looking for maybe like, where do I find those like tracking or my perfect week? We have those resources that are posted. So if you go to empirebuilders.pro, which is the website for that Rick and I have for our organization here at EXP, under the resources tab, if you scroll down to the resource library and click on access on our online downloadable resources, it's going to take you to where you can find that. And if you go under the Free Friday coaching calls, you'll find the downloads for the daily success habit tracker right in there, and your perfect week. So I know that was fast. However, it's on the recording. If you didn't catch it, you can go back and catch exactly how to find that spot. So once again, Mike, thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you for your comments and your participation and your feedback. Everyone make it a great Friday, and let's all commit from taking our baseline of wherever we're at today to extraordinary, whatever the next extraordinary is for each one of you in your personal lives as well as your professional lives. And we'll see you in a couple weeks back on the next Free Friday coaching call. Thanks so much.